Grace here with Let's Chat, and today we have McKellar Newsom, who I have worked with for a very long time. She started out as an investor, still is an investor, but also got her real estate license, got her brokerage license, and decided to be a property manager. So, McKellar, it's great to see you today.
Hey, Grace, good to see you.
Yeah, so why did you decide to get into property management?
Well, it was basically from the investments, and it's one other piece of the whole investment side, and it's the meat of it all because once you get a good property, you have to make sure that you have good tenants, that you keep good tenants, and that you have your properties maintained. And long term, these are like little houses, little babies, and you take care of them.
Well, yeah, they're your investment.
Right.
So it's always challenging to try to figure out, okay, do I hire a property manager? Do I manage it myself? And there's always that pivotal point when you go, I can't do this anymore, because I have a full-time job or the numbers are just, I'm spending too much time on it. So what's a good rule of thumb that you believe that, when somebody should consider hiring a property manager or managing it themselves?
Well, the number one thing I would say first is if you're going to invest in real estate, do it even if you're terrified of the property management piece, because there's options. You could do it yourself, you can learn it, but you can also hire a property manager. And, it seems to scare people thinking that they're going to get calls in the middle of the night regarding toilets or whatever. But those are few and far between, for one.
Right.
And the average person who's a hard worker can probably handle a good number of their own properties and do property management. But if you're not going to do it at all because you're terrified of the property management, then hire a property manager out the gate. And if you're looking at your time and trying to value it, what's more important for you? Is it better for you to spend your time doing your job where you can make another down payment on another property?
Right.
Or is it better for you to spend your time dealing with tenants? Do you like it? Do you not? Because it's dealing with a lot of people and a lot of issues.
Right.
So if that's, and it's a lot of problem solving, and it's a lot of, the things where people aren't happy, where the toilets are going or they don't have the HVAC. Like this week I had a property, Arbor Leaf, which one of my tenants has a newborn baby and their HVAC went out.
Oh,
and so you're trying to get the person in as soon as possible, but it can't always be done like that second. So dealing with helping people feel better and knowing that it's coming and all of that kind of thing can help.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes a good rule of thumb is like under 10, maybe you can try it if you feel comfortable with it. Over 10, it's getting a little overwhelming. What do you suggest? Because we do have a lot of out-of-state investors here. Most of them start right out, don't they, with a property manager?
I think it's really hard to do your own property investing long distance, because you've got to be able to walk by, drive by, step inside on a regular basis. Unless you're planning to come in at least quarterly to check on your investment, I think it's a really smart move to hire a property manager. So
what are some of the best interview questions when you're looking at property management to get an understanding of, is it a good fit for you?
I think I would ask questions. So make sure you understand all the fees, because there's many, many fees that can be added in that you don't realize. Not just the percent that is taken out of the rent, but also are there fees on top for doing maintenance, turning the property, finding a new tenant. Are they taking the late fees? Or are you not? Where all the different fees that might come out of your pocket. And then I would find out how often they're getting in the property. Are they inspecting the property? Are they in some property managers just want to not spend so much money on maintenance and so much time. But what are you? Are you a person that really wants to keep up your investment and you want to make sure so make sure that you're in the same kind of idea on that. And then questions like, how are people putting in tenants? Are they checking their credit scores? What are they looking for income? And are they just putting in whomever?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a real, and there's a lot of variation between property managers. I know that from my past experience with our property managers in the past when we've had them is that they can really, really eat you up on repair fees.
They can.
You know? And I mean, I've had investors from different states that they weren't making any money because they were paying all this money in repair fees. So there was no cash flow coming to them, which is a real challenge.
It is a challenge, and it's a balance. I'm a property manager now, but at one point I have 7 different property managers, which is not the way to go.
7?
7, because I was,
oh my gosh.
it was when I was first figuring out what to do.
Yeah.
So I had property in Chattanooga, Memphis, Nashville, Akron, Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Oregon, and Montana. So that was kind of, I ended up consolidating everything now in Chattanooga, but I got a good feel about how different property managers are, and some of them just don't communicate very well. And that was one thing I found, that you just get the statement at the end of the month, but they don't basically talk to you if things come up, or do you want to spend the money on this? Do you not?
Right.
And so that's, there's a huge difference in terms of how property managers operate, how quickly they get a new tenant in.
Well, yeah, like, are they guerrilla marketers or are they sleeping at the wheel?
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I had a property manager that wouldn't show property on the weekends. It's like, how can you not show property on the weekends?
I've had multiple that won't show property on the weekends. That's when people can go. And then in the evening.
Yeah. So it's like, really? Like, how is that possible?
And that's one thing to ask too, because there are some things that you can get little boxes that people can go into, which can work. But there is something to be said about meeting the potential tenant, talking to them, and making sure that you are kind of training the tenant too. So if you take somebody in and you basically just send them the lease and they go in, then you're not telling them things like making sure that they're changing the filters or that they're not smoking in your unit, talking through the different things that are on your lease. So I think that's really important. And I like to do that. I like to sit down with new tenants and explain sort of what my expectations are.
I think that's really important.
But that's happening a lot for with property managers that are not even meeting with the tenants.
Yeah. I had an investor once that had a big complex, probably 70 units, and he just made it a habit that every other month the repair maintenance person went in every unit to replace the filters. And by doing that, he got eyes on the unit, what was going on, and he made sure that all the air filters were always handled, because that's an area that a bad air filter can totally damage an HVAC unit. And a lot of tenants don't like to put air, filters in. They just let it go. So I thought that was really smart.
Yeah, with the multifamily that I have, that we do every 3 months, go in and we go with a pest control person. And so it's sort of like pest control, change. So you've got even 2 eyes looking and then changing the filters out. Still telling the tenants that, hey, if you do it every month, it helps your bill.
Yeah.
And it not only helps the bill, but helps the efficiency. It helps our unit. But it's a tough one to teach tenants to do.
Well, they're kind of, they're not homeowners, so
they're not homeowners.
So they don't, sometimes understand, even though it does help their costs for utilities. But it is an interesting area. I like that idea of going in with pest control, because then they see it as positive that they're getting pest control.
Right.
Do most investors pay for the pest control, or do they require the tenant to pay for the pest control?
I would say that with the multifamily, the investor's paying for the pest control. With a single, generally what I recommend is the first month. If there are issues, that's probably before the tenant was there. But then after that, it's up to the tenant.
Okay.
So that it can be an issue, because some tenants leave their food out, and kind of also doing a little education with the tenant about how to avoid having pest control. Right.
So what's the biggest challenge you've seen with property management?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of challenges. I'm just going to tell you right now, today, what my biggest challenge is. And this is just...
Today.
I don't know if you remember Oak Haven, but Oak Haven was a great deal. 105, put nothing in. I don't even think I put $5,000 in and rented that thing. Maybe at $1,300. I now have it rented at $1,650. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath in East Brainerd. If you go into Renometer, I probably can hit close to $3,000. That is the issue. And these tenants have been there since I bought it for years, and they love it. They lost a couple family members during COVID, but they're 800, 900, even 1,000 short. And so that is a tough one for me. So I'm just going to say that's a hard one.
Yeah.
And I just did it. I ran a spreadsheet on all the properties and what I think market rent is, and just my portfolio.
Right.
I'm short $4,000
a month.
$4,000 of
That's
all
a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot that could be going into your retirement plan.
Correct. And
That's-
so
yeah.
I'm that, but it is hard, and I know you can't pull people out early. But it's also like at the end of the lease, it's their home. So for me, it's a balancing act. I've got to do what I feel like is good for my karma. At the same time, what's good also for my family and my pocketbook.
Right.
So, and with, for other investors, that's something that they've got to think about.
It's a real challenge. My husband's better at that than I am. I have a real soft heart, and it's like, oh, but he goes, oh, but
It's easier for me if it's somebody else's property,
Yeah.
and they tell me, hey, you can go in, and it's easier if somebody hasn't been paying or if they haven't
Right.
kept up the property. But if it's somebody like this family I'm thinking of, they love the property, they've been keeping up, they pay on time. It's really hard for me to say, and I have raised it.
Right.
I've raised it $100 a year, and then, but it's not the same as lopping them a whole $1,000 up.
Yeah, and that's a real challenge with a lot of investors, and I see that a lot with older investors where they haven't raised the rents in years, and where Chattanooga was even 2 years ago versus where it is today is a big difference
It is.
in rent. So, what have you seen in the last 2 years of where rent's gone?
Well, I mean, I can just tell you, recently I've had 3 major turns on single family in the last 3 months. And of those turns, I went up 33, 30, and 19%.
Wow.
So that is huge.
33%, 19%, and 30%.
So we're really,
That's
really hot in
yeah.
Chattanooga anyway, as far
Yeah.
as rents going up.
Yeah. Well, there's just the inventory's low. There's not a lot of rentals. People are coming in from other states where they don't think it's overpay. They think it's okay because where they were before, it was more.
Right. Like I was looking yesterday and on MLS. I mean, there's a lot more listings for rentals elsewhere for houses. And I was looking in particular in Hickson because I have one that I'm going to list for an investor. And there were 2 yesterday. And then 1,800. And I didn't even realize it was a duplex for 1,800. So it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, which is a pretty large size duplex, 1,800. And the other one was 2,600 for a house that was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And so I'm thinking, and looking back and looking at what I'm going to list this other for, it's probably we're going to try out $2,495 for a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath.
In
And
Hickson.
In Hickson. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot up from what I initially was thinking.
Yeah.
Just if I had in my head had thought about what I'm going to list a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath in Hickson, I would say $1,995.
Right. And now you're going, whoa.
We're going to try $2,495.
Yeah.
Based on what's out there right now today.
Uh-huh.
So somebody listing, a duplex, 3.2 at 1,800.
Yeah.
That seems really high, but they might get it. I mean, it's those types of things are happening right now.
Right.
Like the last one I did was I had it at $1,895. I now have it rented at $2,650.
Wow.
Yeah, that was out in Hamilton on Hunter
Yeah.
in Ottawa, and just popped right up. And I just thought I would try it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well-
why not? Because I saw one in the neighborhood around that, so I threw it out there and can't believe. But it's good and bad. I mean, it's very good.
Right.
It's a good problem to have. It's definitely a first world problem. Okay, I'm under rented. And people, the one thing I'd say is, I'm not having that many turns.
Yeah.
So I think people are realizing if they move, where are they going to move into?
Exactly.
So I feel like I'm keeping tenants longer, which is good because I don't have to have the turn costs, but it's also not so good because some of these people I like to move out because I'm
You're
obviously short.
4,000 is a lot of money
Or
that
that's
you're
just
leaving on
mine.
the
That's
table.
not other people's. That's just my own portfolio.
So when you go, when you work with an investor, do you kind of go through his portfolio or her portfolio and look at where the rents are and give them some suggestions as to where they need to get to?
Correct.
Yeah.
So that, like for instance, I talked to an investor this past week about her portfolio, and she's about $2,000 short in terms of her market rent. And I think it is. She's taken in 4,000. I think she's more at the 6,000 range. So it is interesting just to see what's happened with the market in Chattanooga. I think a lot of places are like that, but I know Chattanooga is.
Yeah. So last words of wisdom for investors regarding property management.
I would say that, for one thing, don't not buy an investment. Don't not buy a house because you're scared of property management. If you need to hire somebody, to do it for you, and don't be afraid of it, and don't be afraid to try. You because if you try a little bit of property management, you learn a lot, and then if you do hire a property manager down the road, you'll know the questions to ask, and you'll know more.
Right.
So it's not rocket science. It just takes work either way.
Right.
And if you do hire a property manager, to not just let it go, to look at everything and to ask questions and to make sure that you communicate well with them and that you've got somebody that communicates well back.
I think that's really key. McKellar, as usual, it's great to see you. Thank you so much. And the name of your property management company is?
It's Link Realty.
And how do they get a hold of you?
You could try and call me. Should I give him my phone
Yeah,
number? Okay,
absolutely.
It's 423-902-8558. Again, that's 423-902-8558. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, McKellar.
Thank you.